Well, just a second, Mayor.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting of the Middleton Plan Commission for August 14th, 2018 to order. The first item on the agenda is the roll call.
Commissioner Paulson?
Here.
Hubbard?
Here.
Farrar?
Yeah,
Ramsey?
Here.
Perry?
Here.
And Reed?
Here.
6 present, Wayne Furterhert is absent.
okay, so the next item is the,
Mayor, could you just wait one moment, please?
okay,
Because I don't think people have packets, right?
Right,
right.
it's all electronic now.
Right, and it's on my screen, but it's not on your screen, so,
Okay.
and this is supposed to be red, as I understand it, right?
Yep.
So,
Either red or green.
well, in any case, I have my copy, so
but the other members don't, that's why
They
I'm,
don't, yeah, they don't have copies.
So you guys
Well, we
don't
read
have,
them all ahead of time.
okay,
Yes, yes.
I wrote them,
do.
but I don't have them memorized.
I do read it all.
761?
Something like that.
Oh, 761.
The street section.
Oh, yeah, just, oh, there we go, I'm done.
well, I went through them, I wrote my questions.
Cool.
it is on, it's just,
You feel it?
Is it turned
it's
on?
not there. Everything's turned on.
You need to turn it off and turn it
And I
back on.
tried relaunching it too, and it didn't work either. We don't usually use this laptop, but I think Abby took the one that we usually use.
Counted with it, huh? Okay.
Oh, you're gonna throw Abby under the
No,
bus?
no, I'm just
Oh,
saying.
I
I'm
see how
using
this
it-
works.
No, but I had it figured out this afternoon to have it work, and now it's not working.
Okay. Story.
In the interim, has
Leave the guy
everybody,
alone, let him get it figured out.
has everybody seen the blue building
Blue building,
on Terrace Avenue? The new paint job?
no,
It's fantastic.
Where's it at, Ontario?
Oh, what's the building that it's on?
On Terrace Avenue.
On Terrace, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Right.
If you-
oh,
Oh, to,
Seiko,
oh, okay.
the blue is phenomenal.
does it match the Point Burger Bar blue?
Oh,
Did you have it plugged in that one before? No.
Oh, we're probably being recorded, aren't we?
it sort of
Probably.
Probably not.
jumps out at you.
Oh, we
That
are,
technology probably works as well too.
Started, yep,
That did not
started.
come up a moment ago.
Well, we could probably do the minutes.
okay, so what is the fallback here now? So if we,
Sometimes you just have to have somebody else stand by it, and then it
Okay, but
won't
this is,
work.
I got that far too.
Okay.
Now double click that. I'm gonna see if there's another computer.
so could we not record it? I mean, this is that
The
time.
one-click wonder.
Well, if people are comfortable with the minutes, then
Yeah,
I
we
can.
can. Low-hanging fruit.
Okay,
Should've
could
brought my
we,
iPad, I could just broadcast.
could we, do you guys?
Yeah, we can do the minutes.
And I
Okay.
did have a correction in there because Jennifer had abstained, which I didn't realize, from the vote on the Middleton Westport one, so that's a correction to the 7:24 minutes.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve?
Sure. Move approval.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the minutes
The flicker.
passes.
Oh.
So,
I did something.
do you want to go to the item number 2 or not?
Maybe if someone has a presentation, they can do an item.
Do you have any presentation?
I don't have another presentation today.
I think they're here to answer questions, if there's questions. They did
Try it
finish
again.
everything.
Oh, let's try this one.
All right.
Yeah, this is the one problem. Sorry, everybody.
That's okay.
I'm not familiar with this computer.
I don't know about, like promises,
You want to go ahead and present, you know, I mean, this is your job now, so,
about Trace stuff?
yeah, Trista, why don't you go ahead and,
Sure. Well, this is the specific implementation plan for the 263 market rate apartments, 12,609 square feet of retail and a 1,000 square foot
Sorry.
No, it's not.
food market. I guess we say foot market in here.
You-
Oh, or
Sure,
foot
that's probably
market.
not- That's a different computer, don't worry about it.
Barefoot food market.
Right.
Anyway,
Let's try that one.
and so there are some conditions of approval that are written out in the staff comments. The applicant should modify the materials to ensure that the vinyl shake does not extend down to the ground on any elevations, which I think they've worked on. The mural location and size should be indicated on Unit F. Mural will require design review at a future date. I think the idea is something similar to the Greenway Station murals, where it's not advertising a specific thing, but emphasizing what might be there. Lighting cannot spill over to adjacent properties. The photometrics right now stop at the property edge, so we need a little bit more information. And the civil plans also show the previous retaining wall and stair system on the western building along Lisa Lane. They have revised that, so those are no longer needed. So the drawings just have to be revised, the elevations have to.
So are you saying number 4 isn't valid anymore then? So it's already done?
Well, they've revised it. They have to revise their plans so that we have the plans in the, on file that show the change. I don't believe that your plans show those changes. Oh, do they?
I'm sorry, there still is a small retaining wall on that far side, and there's still a couple of stairs. It's just, it went from like 7 feet down to 3 feet.
Okay.
So those plans are accurate. They're still showing the stairs the way that we had all discussed
This is
them.
the east side of, on Lisa Lane, right?
Yes, opposite the market, the far retail corner. There's just, because the
So the
road.
the northeast corner of the parcel. If I
No,
remember
I
what it's
think
looking
this
like.
is,
No, the
all
southeast,
of,
southeast.
yeah, all of southern part there, isn't it?
Corner of Lisa and Laura Lane.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so Southwest.
Southwest.
Yeah, so the retaining walls went from, wherever 7 feet they were down to the maximum of like 3 feet, but they're pretty much at grade until that road dips down that little bit towards the end, so.
And then we need a revised elevation drawing for staff that shows the retaining wall in the building from Lisa Lane. We asked for that. That was a condition.
So what is?
And then there's a few other things to be added. They were proposed but not added, not shown on the drawings. Children's play area and structure, dog park, fire pits, grills, basketball hoop, fencing around the market outdoor area, mural location and dimension on market facade. So those are the things that were, that staff recommendations for.
And those were
all
included
Okay.
in the latest.
Okay, and maybe that submittal just crossed with the staff comments, but
Okay.
just to make sure these are all part of it.
Yeah, when we met for that design meeting,
Okay.
we did everything
Okay.
that was asked.
Okay,
So,
great, thank you.
We even revised the window
Yep.
design and all that stuff to accommodate everything that you guys asked for, so.
Okay, so let's go in one by one each item here. So are you done with Eileen, or you?
Yeah, I was just gonna say then the
Okay.
the traffic impact analysis is also part of tonight's, and the recommendation there is approval, but there are some recommendations from that TIA, and I can talk about that, summarize those if you want.
Oh, go ahead and summarize.
Well, the summary of the traffic impact analysis is that really with the current traffic, there are certain concerns at intersections, and so it's not even, they say the traffic from this project that's generated from this project really won't increase the concern, it's already there. So they're suggesting a few things, changes to be made. At the US Highway 12 ramps, I think both northbound and southbound, they're suggesting that the cycle length be reduced. At Century, they're suggesting that the Laura Lane intersection for northbound be left in only, right in, or right out only. The only issue with that is when Meritor goes there, there'll have to be, obviously there'll be a traffic impact analysis.
Yeah.
Probably be some adjustment. There'll probably be a light at that point, so we won't have that, but that's to help traffic.
Because
minimize
if I remember, you don't
conflicts.
want traffic going up Laura Lane and trying to turn left onto Century, going,
Right.
that's not
From
going,
northbound to go left.
yes. And you do want to redirect people who, if they're gonna take Beltline east,
Yep.
they should go up to,
They
Farmington.
should, Yep. And then at Donna Drive, adjust cycle of signal timings, and adjust the cycle length from 160 seconds down to 95 seconds during the evening peak. Increase the eastbound approach to the roundabout from 1 to 2 approach lanes. I'm not sure about the right-of-way needed for that, but that was one thing. And at Century and Parmenter, adjust the traffic signal and pedestrian timings to minimize vehicular queuing, and extend the left turn lane from its current 100 feet to 150 feet. And also add 7-second walk time and maximize green timing for pedestrians to make it safer. So those are the main recommendations.
So these are the issues which already exist, and the
Right.
developer is not supposed to.
Right, they're not saying that
Any-
this development should,
Okay.
they're just saying in general, those are what, of course, we will likely need to work with the people who control the signals, which at the ramps are the DOT.
Okay.
So, anyway, those are just the general recommendations, but nothing specifically tied to this development. That
So,
summarize okay for?
good.
I mean,
So let's go one by one. So,
Sure.
so in the item number 1, so where are we with vinyl shakes? Doesn't come down to the
I think,
ground.
yeah.
That's all been taken.
It's all done.
Yeah.
Number,
Put a brick band around the
Okay.
base of those locations so that material doesn't touch.
okay.
Great.
So the number 2 is the mural location and size would be indicated as you go further along, right? So, or they're already done?
We'll do the mural design at a later date.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, number 3, you already know about the lighting, so it's just a question of making sure that lighting cannot spill over to
Yep,
the
yep.
adjacent properties.
Yep, that's all been taken care of. Yep.
So the number 4 is the civil plans and other various feature retaining wall, and those are all taken care of?
Yep,
then?
that's all been resolved, taken care of, and
Okay. Number 5 is about the elevation of the retaining wall building from Lisa Lane. So that's also handled.
that's, yep, everything is.
Okay, number 6 is the putting the children's play area structure, dog park, and other details.
Yep, that's all on there.
Okay,
Yep, yep.
and so you're not supposed to do anything about TIA, so that's, so any questions now, so?
And then
Yes, David?
We had problems with the material, the brown material that looked like wood. What's happened to that? I've not heard anything more about that.
Yeah.
So we have, the one feedback I got back from city council, and I think a couple of people on plan commission, was that the shakes that we had on the side of the building didn't look authentic enough and didn't have enough wood grain to them. And so we presented a new composite shingle to the design committee that's a variegated wood-colored shingle that replaces the original like monotone, straight cut shingle that was shown on the original plans. And
That's not the one I'm talking about.
and the wood was already approved, or you guys said it was okay to move forward with the not using the variegated color that we showed you, but using a solid wood color. And that's what the plans have been.
Without the faux.
Right,
Correct, without the faux finish, correct.
that was a change.
Yep, that was a change that was already made.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
I was gonna make a motion to recommend approval of the TIA and rezoning to SIP, contingent upon resolution of planning staff recommendations, resolution of engineering staff comments, and approval of the stormwater management plan.
Second.
Okay, any questions
Deanna,
now?
was that you that seconded? Or, David, okay, sorry. Sometimes
Okay,
I-
questions and discussion. Leave, Dan, Jennifer, David. Okay, if there are no any questions or concerns, then all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. Well,
Yeah.
all
Thank
right.
you very much.
Robin, you can go and celebrate
Now you can,
now.
now you can
so-
close on the financing and start construction.
And this,
Oh,
the council, it'll
SIP.
be on the council next week,
Yeah.
yep.
But you can still celebrate each step, right? So, okay, so the next
Well,
item
can I
number,
just ask, at this rate, you'll start construction probably in September then? Okay. And then opening first phase?
Same time next year.
Thank you.
okay, well, thank you for taking care of all the staff comments and concerns, and that's really nice. Thank you.
Mayor, I
s-
have called the IT staff, and they should be here in a few minutes.
Okay,
No.
so the next one is the sign design review. So the Promises Pro Studio 2506 Allen Boulevard. So I'm sure that, so there were some concerns here. So Eileen, you want,
Well, Mark is actually the one
Okay.
who reviewed this.
well,
But I think the concern is that we normally require multi-tenant buildings to have a cohesive look. In this case, they would like to reuse their existing sign, and we understand that. But, we just want the planning commission to probably,
From a sustainability standpoint, we were torn on this. We obviously want to encourage reuse of materials. I did contact the landlord to see if they had signed off on this, and they had. They also agonized about this, apparently. They were trying to keep the same look. The sign would not be illuminated, so obviously not visible at night. But the landlord has signed off on it, and I guess I didn't have a recommendation. I wanted your guidance, feedback, and if you're so inclined, I don't see a problem with approving it. Just be aware that it's different from the other sign packet.
okay, so you probably saw, I'm sure that you have looked at this stuff on,
Yeah.
before the meeting.
Yes,
so-
yes.
So what is, I'd like to hear your comments.
So
So
the-
I have looked at the sign, it does look different than the others, so.
Eileen. And it's smaller than we would normally
All I did was
want? Is that part of the issue?
client.
I don't know if smaller is, maybe let's see.
So the issue is it's not lighted and it's different than,
It's got
looks
different
different than the other sign.
Different proportions, right.
Yes.
Oh, you got the wrong one in there, that's why.
But again, we sympathize with the desire to reuse.
I mean, at some level, if the landlord is okay having non-standard tenant signage,
Yeah.
doesn't bother me, but I don't have a good design eye apparently.
David,
David does.
yeah, well, I looked at,
Jen has a comment.
No.
well, it looks different and it's, it's not lighter. Those are the two things. And if the landlord thinks he's happy and they are trying to be good to the environment and, I guess I'm willing to consider it, so.
Is it a corporate logo?
No, I don't
no.
think so. I think
It's page
it's local.
672.
It's local, yeah.
No, no,
672 in the packet. The TIA was 599 pages. That's part of it.
I actually read most of the T. Yay!
Yay, thank you, Drew. Thank you, Drew.
Hey, good job, Drew.
And thank you, Mark, for working on it.
Sign
It
here.
was Drew.
Above where Soups is where the Promises sign would
Well,
go.
he'll have it up in
Yep.
just a minute.
Go to the on-base agenda.
Everybody seeing on your screens okay too?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Hey, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. See ya.
You got good exercise, looks like, Drew.
As soon as I knew it was Mark calling in, I was
You're
flying
you're
fast.
fast. Yeah, you're really fast.
Thank you.
That's great. You too.
Mark, it's page 672.
Or just click on the supporting document.
Yeah, perfect.
Amazing.
Click on the, don't you love it when everyone's telling you how to? Yeah, there it is.
There we
Okay,
go.
there it is, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it either, I guess.
When you asked about corporate logos, we generally don't allow,
Well, we
Corporate-
try to see if it can blend somehow with the existing, but, I guess I don't think this looks completely out of place here. I mean, I don't know.
No.
Objection, we tried to work with, if there's channel letters, we stick with channel letters, but, there's
Just breaks
also a
it up a
school
little
of
bit.
thought that having eclectic
Yeah, like it just kind of
objection to
evolves.
this. I just wanted to flag it for you that it's something different.
Which property is it referring to?
This is the Middleton Springs shopping
No,
center.
no, I mean on the image that you've got in front of you.
Yeah, this is the promise.
Close to a corner.
I guess the sign is over the column,
Oh, yeah.
right?
That's because the vet clinic is actually around the corner.
around the corner.
So they have to have their sign out there so you can actually see it.
I
Yeah.
see.
So on the corner
it's this
there-
end building.
Yeah, right, it's the end unit. Yep.
I think it sort of looks elegant, and
I'm concerned, actually, it's a little bit small for them.
Bit thin.
Yeah, it's a bit,
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, I won't say it. It's an
Well-
80s style strip mall, so,
I would move it way
yeah.
okay. Need a second?
Second.
2 seconds, all right, now the
I'm gonna
discussion.
take this one over here.
So, well, Jennifer
Looks fine.
second, so I think, any questions, concerns? I guess if they have any problem, they can always come back. In this case, they're not spending any money on this one, so, okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, so the motion passes. I,
I will add that, had this been a channel letter sign like all the others, you wouldn't even have seen this here tonight. I would have just.
okay,
Right, right,
I try
Okay.
to improve as much
Yeah.
administratively as I can to save, cut the.
yeah, we appreciate that.
And when it's something that is different.
Yep.
Then I feel like it's incumbent on me to bring it to you.
yeah, good job,
Thank you.
Mark.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, item number 4, sign design review for Chef Motors, 3440 Tribeca Drive. Mark, you're taking it?
Yeah, he's taking, but can I just say one quick thing? Mark?
Yes.
I don't know if, Howard Teal, the alder for the area, did express concern about another sign, or more signage, so just to let you know. I mean, is that how you'd characterize it, Mark? That,
Was it
Let me get you, yeah, well, this is, I think the battery's just about dead.
If anything could go wrong tonight,
I know.
let's just.
Howard expressed a little concern about more signage, didn't he?
I
or-
didn't see the email from him.
Oh, I forwarded it to you. I got it
After
when I was-
4:30? Oh.
But
okay.
what are they, do you want, well, you want to first present your thing and then let them come and talk, I suppose?
Is anybody here? Oh, you are here, okay, okay.
Yeah, why don't you come over and show what you have?
We'd have to have an easel eye.
Supporting document did open, Mark, in a different
I
window.
know, I'm actually looking for this.
Because we got these nice screens.
Hello, my name is Kristen Eastman. I'm with Grant Signs, and this is Doug Shep with Shep Motors. We're here today to propose LED illuminated flush-mounted channel letters reading Shep Motors Service Center, all LED illuminated. We did notice on the staff comments that there was a comment regarding the prints that were approved back in February of this year. We did notice that they had made the comment about the lowercase letters. However, you can see on the plans here that actually was an incorrect design. The architect had used the incorrect font and has lowercase letters here. We had taken care of and installed all of the letters previously with Shep Motors. As you can see on the building and the signs that are currently on the building today, they are all capital letters using that font. So we'd like to maintain consistency and install the sign that we have proposed today.
So what is the issue, Mark?
And that's fine with me. I just was trying to point out that what was reviewed previously but was not approved as signage showed lowercase. That's all I was trying to do was flag it. I have no objection to the caps.
Okay, so now
So
it's,
when Howard says more signs, he may have misread it, because it's not more signs than we've previously approved? That's what I'm not clear what we're approving tonight.
No, back in February, these are some of the plans. Thank you. And as you can see, the signs listed on that plan there, Shep Motor Service Center. We're using the consistent overall width and height of the letters. However, that font is different. You can see there's lowercase letters. We're just trying to maintain consistency. You can see all the letters on the existing building. All of them are caps letters. We're just trying to keep it consistent. So the drawings back then that were approved in February were incorrect.
And just to emphasize, the area that's boxed on your screen, the rectangle, that's an addition that was approved in February. So that previously did not have signage because that wasn't a building at
There,
that
yeah.
point. So, so it's a larger facade. I can't remember the length now. I don't have my staff comments in front of me.
7,200.
And it
I
looks
think.
proportionate.
Yeah, it looks proportionate. It's a PDD. I have no objection to it.
So we're not really approving an additional sign, we're approving the change in the font and
the letter, yeah, that's
No,
it.
signage was not previously approved.
signage was not
Not
previously.
previously approved.
We
so-
always say that it needs to be
Right.
specifically called out and approved.
Right, and if you look on the screen, on the right side, which is the south, so the west elevation at the top, to the right, there's that's a window area, that's a display, a showroom area, right?
Yep.
And
Can you
that-
bring your display board up?
Hold on, I will.
So this is facing the highway.
And those are
Correct.
uppercase as well, is that what I'm
Yes,
getting?
that is the west.
There you go.
And that's the west facade, the west side.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
And what you're gonna be adding,
Line up with
oh, well,
those
you don't
two.
have a
We're
picture.
just adding this one.
Oh,
And where are
It's the
you?
only sign that will be added to the
That's
addition.
to the left on that photo there.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
over here.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Would you?
He's worried about more signs in a
Oh, okay, so you're
That's all
adding,
it's-
right.
kind of highway business area
Okay,
anyway.
so adding right to the
Yeah.
side of it.
Extension.
They're
Over
advertising to
here
the
is
belt
the-
line, or,
Yeah,
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 that's what they're
makes sense.
advertising to.
I don't see the problem with that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and it's just
would
adding
you
right there.
consider lining it up with the two windows?
The addition went into this area, right, Doug?
All the way to the end, yeah. Well, 12 feet past.
So the addition basically took this wall and continued it to the north,
Do you want it
leaving
approved?
this signage here, which
Do you
is
want it
that level.
approved?
If it was blasting.
Would you
So this
consider
is an
lowering
additional
it to
sign on
line
a
up
long
with the
facade.
windows?
So it's two wall signs, it's PD, so normally we
Yep.
would allow one facade sign, but it's PDD, you have the discretion to.
Move to approve.
Fine, it,
Need a second.
Second.
Okay, any questions?
David's,
David, you
Yes.
have some questions?
I'm trying to negotiate the lining up of the letters with the two windows. In
Okay,
other words, lowering it slightly.
Due to
Okay.
how the building is situated, though, it's very difficult to see the sign itself if it was any lower going eastbound.
Yeah, because.
okay, so do you agree with the point which David asked for the alignment with the windows?
I personally don't, only because from a visibility standpoint, it's difficult to see if the sign itself, if it's any lower going eastbound. Due
On
to
belt
the
line.
location of the building,
Okay,
there's a steep
Yeah,
hill.
the slopes down.
It's low.
You're either up high on the belt line or going up on the on-ramp.
no, but he's actually asking to
want
line
your west
with the windows, right? Is that what you're saying, David?
Yeah.
He's not asking to lower it or raise
Yeah, I'm
it.
asking to lower it.
To
So
Lower
you are
the
asking
sign.
to lower it?
bring it in, he's asking.
you want it to
bring
be
in line
consistent with
these
the
two
existing sign.
Oh, okay, okay,
However, it will be very difficult to see.
okay.
So this is the
okay.
southbound direction on the Beltline right now. Pretend you're driving, from Sauk City into Middleton. And so here's the view towards Shep Motors.
New car owner. I keep hearing this song in my head, I'm sorry.
38 years.
Huh?
38 years.
Yeah, yeah.
What is the song?
From their commercials.
Oh.
How
I'm not gonna
does-
sing it, but.
Yeah, don't-
Come on.
How do the letters that you're proposing line up with those to the right, over the main building? Are they, they are a little, yeah.
Pardon?
This one is gonna be lower, doesn't it? No,
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 the
pretty
height-
close.
The height of the building's all the
Are
same.
they the same size letters?
These are 2 foot 8 inches. I don't recall what these are, I didn't actually look that up. I would think they're similar.
They're pretty similar.
Same?
They're 2 foot 8 inches high, the proposed ones, these ones?
Yes.
Yeah, 28, 2 foot 8.
Okay.
Let me channel my inner Howard, as problematic as that is. Go back to the Google Earth image. I mean, in a certain sense, they already have a sign.
Yeah.
What other businesses have 2 signs? Or is it the idea that they're allowed a certain amount of signage per linear foot of frontage, and therefore they would be, if this was a regular B3,
We would allow a maximum of 100 square feet of wall signage.
And-
That's the cap. So our formula is
Can you grab the?
sorry, I'm used to the mic just being here. We're used to, we would have 1 square foot per lineal foot of frontage with a cap of 100 feet, 100 square feet. In this case, their intent, I believe, I don't want to speak for them, but their intent is to note that they have a service center and that's what's different about the sign. We don't regulate content, but
Right.
Obviously,
Well,
that's the intent of the
How much square footage do
sign.
we have now?
Yeah, what do we,
I'm sure that with the signs they have here now are at that 100 square feet or more. The building is very large. It's a long facade, and with a longer facade, I think it's appropriate to have different components to it and break up the facade. So I think architecturally, I don't have a rendering since we haven't taken a photo when it's completed.
They do have street frontages, though.
That they do. They do have 3 street frontages, but they also have signage on other frontages.
But in also, this case has a different function at the service center, so
Yeah.
they need a sign.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's not directional from the
Right.
belt line.
We're advertising to the Beltline
It's
folks.
advertising,
Yeah.
That's what we're
exactly.
doing.
It's Beltline advertising.
Whatever you wanna do.
And I think it
Whatever
makes
you wanna
sense.
call it, that's what you're doing. Because we were having an issue with how high the sign was. We're trying to get to that eastbound traffic on the Beltline. So,
I
you
mean,
okay with that?
the sign
Let me
looks
go
fine
with
to
it.
me, it's just the idea that some people say, well, the idea of fairness of treating everyone about the same, but it's a PDD, so, I mean,
Can I add something, though?
I've already moved approval, so.
Yep.
Right. The only problem we have is that they don't know we have service, because we're not a new car shingle. That's the one downside that we have. We're not a new car dealership.
Oh.
So they don't come to us like Ford or Chevrolet.
Okay, any other questions? David, are you happy?
No.
You are not? Okay, so let's.
Are you happy enough to move on, though?
Yes, I'm happy enough.
Oh, you're happy to move on? How about Jennifer?
Yes, I'm happy to move on.
Okay, Dan is.
Keep moving.
Okay, well, all right, so then the motion is to approve the sign as proposed, so it has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously, so. Oh, you're against?
42.
Oh,
Hubbard
okay,
and Reed.
okay, all right.
Yep.
5-1.
2'8"
Shep?
size of this deck.
Okay. Now, if you still want to get David's input, he will provide that input for free, and you guys are welcome, so.
Just saying, the lettering is the width of the table here, height. That is enormous.
The
Okay,
Middleton Center sign was twice that.
Huh?
okay, let's move on to item number 5. Specific implementation plan modification screen porch at 7146 Peak View
And I have that one.
Way, Middleton Ridge.
In this
so.
case, Middleton Ridge, PDD documents state that there'll only be encroachments into the rear yard setback for certain things, including uncovered decks and porches. In this case, they want to make it into a screened-in porch. The homeowners association has approved it, I understand, and we have no objection to it.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions? David? Jennifer?
And I did put, I should have had this in your packet, I did put a plat showing the lot where this is highlighted, so you do have that, sorry about that.
Okay, so you guys seem to be happy then, right? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve the SIP modification for screened porch at 7146 Peak View Way, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. On to item number 6. Design review State Bank of Cross Plains 8301 University Avenue. Helene?
In this case, the recommendation is approval contingent on resolution of any plan commission and city staff comments and recommendations. I think the only comments we made were double checking to make sure that the lighting ordinance is complied with, especially on the north side. Additional information on the proposed signage, trash enclosure details, and dimensions, materials, and colors for the retaining wall. Otherwise, we think it's a very nice project and recommend approval with those conditions.
Can you remind me, we saw this a couple weeks ago and we
In-
gave concept approval.
Concept approval.
And it's not really changed since then, right? It's a good design, so.
Yeah, it's a very nice design.
You know where the elevations are? Oh, here we go.
Yeah, would be nice.
Yeah.
Recommend, I move approval subject to resolution of staff comments.
Second.
Second,
Okay.
Okay, so David, what do you think?
fine.
Jennifer.
I can go back to it, sorry.
We wanna look at the nice buildings more.
I know we had talked about the facade in the corner. David had talked about beefing up the corner. Was any of that changed, or is it the same when we last saw it?
Could you just go to one more sheet? We added some bird's eye views of.
One more
Could you
sheet?
The microphone.
take the
There
microphone?
we go.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm Jeremy Fromwell with Iconica. We added some bird's eye views showing that, that corner from the intersection. I believe the comment was kind of off the flat, 2D elevations. It looked real spindly. We've got the same width on the opposite corner. We're kind of bookending that entry. And, it'll look much more massive, in the perspective. You're not ever going to be straight on view of it. So we did leave it the way it was and felt it was appropriate.
Very nice corner with that building, I think.
Any other comments or questions?
I do want to bring one more comment to one of the elevations. How do I move back? On this is the south elevation, and so it's the one facing Randan. You've got that small window on the first floor off to the west, that 3-panel. We're working on some floor plan changes there, so we're going to remove that window. It ends up in a vault room, which we don't want glass and anyone to be able to see in there, security reasons. So that one will be out, but it is on the facing Randan, not the street.
Good catch.
Good catch in time.
Give to these guys on that one.
If you did that, that would be your vault.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, cute.
That's actually
Okay. Any other relevant question or comments?
Relevant.
Well, the humor is always good, so.
It is good.
Okay, so then the motion is approve the design review of State Bank of Cross Plains at 8301 University Avenue. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. Well, go ahead and start the
you.
process. So. Mhm.
Thanks.
Okay, so now on to item number 7.
I can talk about that.
Consolidation of lots 3 and 4 by certified survey map. The Masters Phase 2, Bishop Bay Parkway.
And if you
Aline.
remember, Lot 4 was the site of the proposed Notre Dame project. Now they've combined them. I think the biggest comment our engineering staff had was, well, they didn't think it should be Lot 3 because it's only one lot CSM. But I support it being Lot 3 because the other Masters ones are Lots 1 and 2 of the previous CSMs. I think it's gonna make more sense in the long run to have this be Lot 3, so. I think there's a few technical ones, but that was, I think, one that they had talked about.
I agree.
The staff recommendation is approval, subject to engineering comments, except for Lot 3.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
And it's just a
question.
CSM consolidation, right?
Yeah.
Just consolidation.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
tree easement remains.
The easements remain,
The tree
Yeah.
easement.
Increases the
Yeah.
density.
Everything remains.
Huh?
It's
Increases
just,
the
it
density.
increases the density?
No.
No, we're not recalculating that.
Let's go.
Move along, Mark.
No, it's just certified survey map combining
Yeah.
those 2 lots. So.
Yeah, and we appreciate them doing it because it does kind of. Oh, there you go.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion to consolidation of lots 3 and 4 by CSM, the master phase 2 Bishop Bay Parkway, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. On to item number 8.
Is that be something? Thank you. Mark, do you want to talk about this, or do you want me to?
Sure. For several months now, actually going back several years, really, we first floated the idea of developing a bike share system in Middleton in the early part of this decade. And now in the last few months, this has gotten some legs, if you will, or some wheels. And we have met at the staff level with Trek a few times to develop a proposal, and this concept, these slides come from Trek. I don't know if you'd like me to go through them quickly. It wouldn't, since it's not too late, I could, and since we got the computer working.
Sure, I'm fine with that. Yes.
So again, these slides come from a B-Cycle. It's sort of a marketing piece too, obviously, but, and I'll skip the marketing part. But they do, there are various bike share systems in the country. There's competitors. B-Cycle Trek is one of the main ones, and you can see they're located in various locations in the country. What we are looking at specifically for Middleton is something called B-Cycle Dash, which is different from what's in place in Madison, but in the future we hope it would be, the plan is for it to migrate towards compatibility. These bikes stand by themselves and are deployed. The system in Madison has, you lock up the rack, lock up the bike to a rack. When you're done with it, obviously you check it out from a rack. These don't need, the technology's on the bicycle itself. It's not integrated with the rack system. And so the bikes cost quite a bit more as individual bicycles, but the storage component is cheaper. Flexible docking
What do you mean
options
by
is
storage component?
the storage, the rack. I mean, when you store, so in other words, the racks in Madison have like a $35,000, $40,000, $50,000 installation, the racks that where you pick up, check out the bikes. And here it would be a more minimal approach. The technology is on the bike itself.
Would they be stationed at particular spaces?
Yes.
Or would they
Yeah,
leave them anywhere?
And I'll get into that, but basically there's a, you can do a geofence, so you can identify a perimeter where the bikes are to be stored, and if you store it outside or park it outside of that, then there might be different pricing, or, there's incentive to locate it in a central spot. It's still, you want the bikes to be in logical locations. Being able to lock them up anywhere, this is what the interface could look like on the bike itself, very smartphone compatible. There would be kiosks in certain locations, and you can also
So Mark,
interface.
all these electronic devices will be on the bike,
Or you can attach your smartphone to interface with them as well. But there are basic there's basic display capability on the bicycle too. So for example, here's what a dash system the station would consist of. And to the right is the geofenced concept. So bikes would be stored in the same general area and priced accordingly, but if you're outside that area, you can have a different pricing structure. I don't think I need to get into all the details, but at this point, but the point is, this is the next generation of bike sharing, of a bike sharing system. And obviously not everyone has a smartphone, so that's a consideration as well, but there are kiosks and technology on the bikes themselves to give people who don't have that smartphone technology the ability to access the system. This is some data from Madison's. I should back up a little bit. The whole reason why we're looking at this is we have a lot of people who use our hotels. A lot of we have 1,000 hotel beds in the city. There's actually quite a few people who come here and we feel would use a bicycle system. There are people who specifically choose Middleton hotels and bring their bikes for the purpose of proximity, for exercise outside their meetings, or use the trail, go up Highway 12 to into the town of Springfield. And so we know that there are people that there's a demand for this. In Madison, the vast majority of trips are done by members of the B-Cycle system, and those members could also be people from Denver or other communities that have a membership in one community and then use it here. So they could be tourists. It's priced accordingly so that you can have a membership structure so that a more frequent user wouldn't pay nearly as much as somebody who just rides it on occasion. But most of the revenue in Madison comes from the casual riders who don't have a membership. Basic information, obviously Madison has the UW students, so that's a lot of the trips there. 60% of the riders are women. They tend to be younger riders overall. And in Madison, there's a lot of people who choose to drive into the community and get to a B-cycle and then finish their trip, or they take transit into Madison and then use B-cycle for that last mile. So there's a wide variety of why people ride. Running errands, going to an event, social entertainment, visiting friends, going to work, exercise, restaurant, etc., shopping. There's also the ability with these bikes to have some advertisement on the bikes themselves. You can see over where the basket is located in the front and also in the back, there are opportunity for sponsorship, for example, and that happens in a lot of communities. And this is more than what we need to cover, but we have at the staff level developed potential locations for in 3 phases for where bike stations could be located. Focusing initially for the first phase on the downtown and the hotel area, we feel makes the most sense. So you see it's hard to see, but the dark blue is labeled number 1, and that would be phase 1. So you can see one here by City Hall or the library, east of Parmenter Street, the exact location to be determined. One in the Capitol Brewery area, or could also, serve Staybridge to the north. Down here by Marriott, there's here at Hilton Garden Inn, and Residence Inn is nearby. To the north on Deming Way, and there's 2 hotels there near Costco. And then we also felt, given the number of people that come to our Penny Klein Park and Firefighters Park that are there for tournaments, that there's breaks in tournaments, and it makes sense for those people if they wish to access the rest of the city. So we are suggesting a B-cycle station there as well.
So that would be phase 1?
Phase 1. Phase 2 are in purple.
Yeah.
And again, this is at the concept level. We haven't had any formal direction. This was referred by the council to various committees, including the Plan Commission, obviously, for your feedback. Phase 2, we envision it going a little bit beyond the downtown core, up by the Tresta development and Oak Ridge, Meadow Ridge, and then over serving Middleton Springs to the east and Lakeview Park. Phase 3, I thought we had another one in phase 2, but I don't see that at the moment. Phase 3 would fill in other locations, for example, Parkwood Plaza, Willie Street Co-op area, Walgreens, Common Ground, which I really like that location because of what Common Ground is aspiring to be. It's also the gateway to the Conservancy. Up by Pick and Save. So you get the idea. Over here by PPD, west of Greenway. And then also up by the airport. We actually have people who fly in every day to the airport. Pilots sit there while their clients are going into, are here for a meeting, whatever, and they sit at the airport. Some of them will rent a car and access the city, the area for the day, but some of them we feel would also rent a bike. From a funding standpoint, we are hoping that with the council's support, Plan Commission committee recommendations, that it would be seeded, the infrastructure would be seeded with TIF, and then that operations would come from tourism, operating costs. We are going to the tourism committee on Thursday for their initial discussion. Eileen, can you think of anything I'm missing? So basically, it's here for your feedback. We are a community that of 20,000 that acts like a big city, much bigger city, I should say, in terms of the number of visitors we have, and also the strong support for biking in the community. So we feel bike share, this might be the time to implement a bike share system.
Hey, Mark,
Yeah.
how many bikes per station are you envisioning?
It can vary depending on.
Oh, it can vary. Have one, or we could have a dozen.
Well, not one. I was thinking a dozen. There's a memo that Abby put together that was also in your packet. For these reasons, these are the 10 goals. I think it talked about a number of bikes overall, if I remember the memo, I thought.
The staff comments say 75.
I was going to say 75, but I wanted to
can you go back to
see
the
the
staff
number.
comments? I'm not sure where the number comes
Oh, it's
from.
in the staff comments, that's right.
Where did that number come from? 7 stations?
7 stations and 75. I knew it was there, I just didn't remember it. Where did that number come from? It was a proposal that we worked with B-Cycle in terms of what made sense, but based on their expertise around the country. We wanted their, we're going by their guidance, what they feel is a workable number.
That's for phase one, 75 bikes
Correct.
for phase one.
Correct.
Any idea after that, how many?
Well, I would say so that's about 10, 11 bikes per station. So I would use that as a guide of, 10 to 11 per station. Maybe some of the areas outside the downtown core, away from the hotels, maybe we'd have a slightly smaller, need for. The key is really it's not so much how many bikes there are at some of the other stations. It's just the ability to balance the system. If for instance, in Madison, a good example would be there tends to be bikes on the periphery of downtown of Madison, the Hilldale area, let's say, or Atwood area, and then the bikes start congregating and moving towards the center of the city during the day. There tends to be that direction where they have to be then rebalanced by a van that goes around and they move, to make sure that all the stations aren't full, so that there's still slots available for people to bike downtown. So there tends to be some balancing that occurs during the day. With the dash system, and the fact that there's not these fixed locations, it actually, I think, would be easier to work with, because you wouldn't have the investment in the racks you wouldn't out of necessity have to have a hard slot, a rack for every bike. I can't get into all the details because we haven't gotten into exactly how that would work, but we have an estimate of 75 with some gradual expansion depending on how the system performs with phase one.
So, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, who owns these bikes?
There's different structures that we've considered, and I don't think there's been a staff recommendation in terms of, I'm just going to look at Abby's memo here, which I have not reviewed for a few weeks. We have discussed with B-Cycle different ownership and maintenance structures. Our public lands manager, for example, has discussed maybe this would be an opportunity to have a city staff person maintaining the bikes, and during the off time might be available for other projects. The typical model is for B-Cycle to maintain the bikes during the day, and we just have an ongoing annual cost for maintenance. We haven't made any of those decisions. We're here to get input on concept and whether you would like us to proceed with fleshing out the details.
So what do we get for $234,000? So
In
75
capital
bikes?
costs associated with 75 bikes, right? And we would own them under this proposal.
We would own the bikes.
That's my understanding.
and then we have to, if there's any vandalism, stolen, anything happens, then city will get into the business of maintaining them.
Not well, it says in capital costs associated with B-Cycle. There's obviously we would have insurance on anything that we own. The city has insurance. So, and the typical arrangement is to have B-Cycle be maintaining the system as well. We just haven't made that type of decision yet. The capital costs, or the startup costs, are $234,000. I wish I had a memo that, or an email that Mike Davis wrote. I can see if I can quickly access it. It had a little more information in it. He just sent it today. Go if there's another question. Yeah.
Questions?
Go ahead.
Would people be able to bike to Madison, or are these geofenced to be only in Middleton? 'Cause could you interact with the B-Cycle station in Madison? So the question is this a Middleton project, or is this a appendage to the Madison?
This is a Middleton project initially, certainly initially, because Madison's system is a older station-to-station system. That doesn't mean, so for now it would be a Middleton system, but we are looking at ways that if you have a membership in Madison, that it can also be across the metro area, that there'd be some benefits. And that's all technology. That's not, I mean, that's right. All, that's not a big deal. Go ahead.
So this is a conceptual question, and the context for this is I've had a number of former students work for B-Cycle across the country. A number of them have done presentations on it. I think the guy who used to run B-Cycle Madison was one of my former students. I don't know if that means I have to abstain, but I could never figure out the financing model. Same with City Bike in New York, which I just saw last week. I mean, from Madison's perspective, if we give you the public right-of-way, like a sidewalk near campus, where you can install your stuff, we're in essence giving you free access
Yep.
so that you're providing a service which is a private company providing a public benefit. That's what I can't understand is this a public good or a private good? So like, why shouldn't B-Cycle pay us for the right to use our property? Or we could say, to make it work, win-win, you can use the 3 stalls in the library parking lot, for example, for free. You put your bikes in there, you maintain them, you own them, you have the risk, you get the reward. I still don't understand. I mean, I understand talking to Soglin's staff, why the staff said, okay, yes, they can have this sidewalk for free. Put your bike rack in, it's good. But why does the city pay? I don't understand how B-Cycle,
I don't
They
think,
don't make money.
No, B-Cycle's
don't
not
make money.
making
They
money
do not
off of
make money.
Madison.
It's subsidized.
Right.
okay, so it's the
Not
idea
all
that it's a
cities.
private good that we want,
That we are
We want-
subsidizing
because it
of-
has a public benefit.
Just like we
Okay.
subsidize roads.
Right, just like we subsidize the transit, we subsidize a lot of things. That's
That's what it is.
So it's because they don't make money, even though it's track.
It reminds me of the famous Saturday Night Live commercial.
No.
One of the favorite ones that something is free, and they said, how do you make money? And they say volume.
Volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of the numbers that I've been told for B-Cycle in Madison is they gave a bunch of memberships to UW students.
Yeah.
So they just gave them to them, and with the idea that hopefully that would drum up some more interest and get their system to be used more. I don't know where, B-Cycle certainly must do better if they, or do better if it's sold on to us, and then we have all the responsibility.
see, the way
It'd be
I-
nice to know what other cities, exactly how that model is structured. Because we don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
I don't think the city wants to own, in the same way that we pay companies to provide a service to our residents.
Yeah.
I feel much more comfortable
I'm-
paying some service contract to them to maintain and operate and.
I'm with you. I don't think we want to get into the business of, doing that.
Yeah.
So-
Mike?
Those questions aside, I really like the idea of bike share and.
Mike said that he recalls, this was late this afternoon, he recalls a number of $110,000 a year for operating costs, but it was never specified in writing by B-Cycle.
I think that was what they, if I remember that number correctly, that was talking about the maintenance on the bikes.
$110,000 a year to maintain 75 bicycles?
It's well, and I don't know if it was 75, what that number was, but it was a fairly expensive
Metro
number.
Transit is 400 and
of-
some thousand.
Right, no, I understand.
That's $1,500 per bike per year.
It's what?
$1,500 per bike per year.
That's more than my bike cost.
You get a new bike every year.
So this is, and we pay somewhere about 241,000 to the metro. I think that's, Mark, do you remember that number?
It's over, I'm sorry, the
400.
number, it's over 400, I don't remember
There's
the.
enough,
that's-
over 400?
That's
Yeah.
a vital public service.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Exactly,
yeah.
so,
There's a big difference.
Which has 110, 120 riders on Saturdays, the whole Saturday. It has 120 riders. So, there's a heavy subsidy depending on day of the week and time of day.
there's a heavy subsidy, as you said, to
Right.
free parking
Right.
downtown too.
Sure.
That's,
Right. Our roads are obviously subsidized.
It's kind of hard for me to vote to recommend concept approval for a certain amount of TIF if I don't understand the financing and ownership mechanism. I mean, I recommend to council in concept, yes, support B-cycle, bicycle sharing, anything bike ped, yes.
Well,
but-
how about getting more details, how the other cities are doing, and what is their structure? I mean,
But we don't
proving-
need all cities, just like Madison would be a good
Well,
example.
and that's, in the overview that I went through very quickly, our comfort level from talking with B-Cycle is we're comfortable with what, at the staff level with what they have done in Madison. Based on where the technology has evolved, the dash system is that's where the trend is going for bike share systems. So instead of latching on to Madison system with, I would call it version 1.0 technology, we are looking at version 2. Madison is not imminently planning to convert all their bikes because they've got a lot of investment in those older bikes. So they're not positioned to say, okay, we're going to upgrade to dash as well. But Fitchburg is looking into this, and they're looking at the dash system as well.
So from Mark, what I understand, the Madison does not pay. This track bike had to, they just gave them the space, and the track bike is doing all their stuff there.
I'm not aware of Madison's finances, but I don't think that's an accurate statement.
I think they
Madison
do pay.
invests. Yeah, they do pay. They,
But that,
Well, from what
The
I
initial-
remember, there was a,
the initial system, there was an initial base system that Trek, at very minimal cost to Madison, seeded the original system. But additions to that system, the system in Madison has grown significantly. Those additions have been at Madison or sponsor, for example, UW Hospital expense. We've had what was his name? Andy, when he, UW, Andy Howick.
Yeah.
He was interested in sponsoring a station out at, by the hotels and by UW Medical Foundation. So there are people we feel that are interested in by people I mean businesses, interested in some sponsorship opportunity to help offset either installation or operating costs. More likely installation capital costs than operating, frankly, because operating gets unwieldy.
Maybe staff look at other B-dash facilities around the nation and see what their models are, and then we can probably have a more meaningful discussion on finance.
Yeah.
Once we understand how
We can give you that, sure.
financed.
We
have
have
your motion then?
we have done some of that. Metro or Trek has given us some of that data. I just I don't have it at my fingertips here. So
I think the motion would be that we vote, let me go back to the staff
I was
comments.
just going to look for the other data.
Staff,
Comments.
right, that we recommend to Common Council to support Middleton adopting a B-cycle bike sharing system. Period. And then we can make a second motion. So that's my motion. Recommend
Second.
Common Council to support the B-cycle bike sharing system.
I'll second that. Yeah.
I guess the question I would have with that motion, do we, is the plan for the stations a consideration at that point or not in the concept? Because some of the things I'm thinking about would be access for residents of Middleton to, use the system if
Right.
necessary, and I mean, the middle school seems like a good location. I see there's one near the
Right.
high school.
Yep.
But
There's,
there's a lot of residents that might benefit from this as well, and some of those stations are not located in residential.
Right.
What-
one of the memo lines was for workforce transportation, getting people back and forth to their jobs. So,
Right.
Right.
you know, in my district, I have, and in Mark's district, we have several apartments, and that's a good way so I think that's definitely something we need to take a look at, but I don't think that we're necessarily to that point yet.
Yeah, I don't think we're granting concept approval to the station location.
You think they probably will use their own bikes?
Well,
No, I'm thinking that where we put the stations or the bikes,
right. And
Next to
conversation.
You could
for
either
another
ask,
time.
and Dan,
it
we
comes up, we could ask staff to recommend locations,
yeah,
or
we completely
and we
agree with
approve
you.
of something.
The reason why we started with this initial approach, certainly phase 1 and even phase 2,
I
is
understand. Yeah,
the
I
tourism
totally-
angle.
Yeah, I totally
yeah.
get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But, and that's why I'm saying, I think where we put them and where we start is a conversation for another time. I think we have a lot of questions on how the system is gonna work yet.
Yeah. These are bikes that bicyclists generally wouldn't bike more than a couple miles, 3 miles with them. It can be done, but the bikes are heavier. You know, they're more utilitarian than a bike that somebody might want to use as a hybrid bike for commuting, for example, or a commuter bike. You know, people who commute from Middleton or beyond into Madison and Monona. I mean, when I was staffing the bike week commuter stations that we had in Middleton, there's people who bike 15 miles to work.
Yeah.
They aren't going to use these bikes.
They're using real bikes,
They're using, well,
bikes that.
yeah, these bikes are meant
For
for
the
that short
$4,000.
trip to keep, you know, we have, for example, if someone has their car parked on the lift at T-Wall's place, you know, and it's easier for them to step outside, grab a bike to go up to Firefighters Park to watch, you know, their kid play a game or whatever.
Or the guy whose car's broke down and he needs to get to work from.
Right.
So there's.
Yeah, I mean, it's more that type of use, and that's why the stations are clustered together a certain way. I agree that Arbor Lakes and, is it Overlook Point? I always forget the names. Absolutely, that's, you know, if the system gets installed and thrives and is growing, I totally agree from a staff level that it makes sense to expand it into those areas.
So Mark, what do you know about the per hour cost or whatever? Even if somebody living in Arbor Lakes, would they be even able to afford it?
Oh, in terms of the rental, those
Yeah.
structures, the rental structures are all over the place. Madison B-Cycle, you know, has if you use them, if you have a basic membership, you are able to rent a bike for free, as long as you return it within half an hour, I believe is how that system works. Here's the rates in Madison. So a walk-up day pass is $6. You get 24 hours of rides. If you go more than 30 minutes, then you're going to have to pay $1 or $2. I think that's how City Bike in New York worked too. Yeah, and what I did when I visited New York City last year is I got my $8 or $12 daily membership, whatever it was, and I returned that bike every 25 minutes. I just put it in the rack and then checked it out again. I mean, that's perfectly legit. That's how you do that, and you just can take the same bike. So Mayor, to answer your question, every community has their own pricing structure. It depends on what they wanted to do and how they structured their investment in the system. Madison obviously has chosen this pricing structure, which I think is probably different from what it was when they first started. So it's a annual pass, $65 investment to be able to use unlimited amount of B-Cycle downtown. That's a bargain. You know.
It does say right there, need more time to avoid fees, simply dock your B-Cycle.
Yeah, you were laughing. I saw you chuckling, but no, that's actually what they encourage.
Well, the annual passes, the trip time is 30 minutes, so you can spend $65, but.
It's not designed for regular bicycle commuters.
Right.
Truly designed for visitors or that last mile problem of people taking public transit downtown.
In Madison, you stay at Hotel Red, and you want to go to Trader Joe's. You know,
It's
next
popular at bar
station.
time, so I've heard.
Yeah.
So now we know where to put them.
So, I guess the
Well,
only other question
it's
I have
popular.
about that would be, and this would be an eventual conversation about stations and whether or not they can just be thrown on the sidewalk. Or they actually, I mean, thrown is maybe too harsh a word. They have a kickstand and they're nicely placed,
Right.
independent. So the city, I would want to think about that in terms of the zone structure being, specific pieces of the right-of-way in particular streets, or if you're, gonna do huge blocks, like, I think
Right.
those would be,
A lot of
things that would, probably be worthy of a conversation as well. Just 'cause they could be all over the place, and do we really want the bikes everywhere, or,
Right.
or do we want like a place for them to be,
And having them clustered where people expect to find them is obviously desirable.
yeah.
And that's what we would want, and pricing could be used to encourage that. If you are parking it outside the zone, there's a surcharge. I mean, there's ways to do that very easily. Here's Madison's B-Cycle map. The nearest station we have now is at the Digestive Health Center over by Whitney Way and where Perkins used to be. So Madison's original system was centered on the downtown, and it has grown to the west and to the northeast and a little bit to the south. And Fitchburg, as I mentioned, is looking into this now, and Middleton.
I would be interested that how much it's costing Madison.
I mean,
And the other would be, our bikes will be top of the scale, so their minimum dollar is $6 per day, but I think the other probably will end up a lot more, so maybe more like 10 or more dollars, so. Yeah, I think I'm what Leaf said, we need more information. I don't have any problem with just approving the concept to look into it further, but I don't want to throw away whether it's a TIF money or other money, don't want to be the taxpayers' money wasted. So look into the concept, but need to get more data, so.
Well, and I mean, as we think about it, I mean, it's a public service, so we have to ask, what other public services do we provide where we expect users to pay the full rate? Or what do we expect, that they don't pay the full rate and therefore the city is in essence subsidizing, whether it's free parking or transit or the other thing. We just have to think about how we think about what kind of service this is. No transit system in the country has the users pay 100% of the operating or capital, so. Certainly no automobile system has that either, so.
So like those in Boston, those subways, you don't think they are fully supported
Oh,
by?
gosh, no.
No, I can tell you
Not
that
even close.
across the country, farebox revenues is at most 25%
Yeah.
of all capital and operating of transit.
I mean, maybe some systems are a little higher, but there's no system that,
On average, 25 to 30%.
No transportation system is fully paid
No.
by the
Yeah.
user.
Especially private
in
road,
the US.
I mean, public roads,
Yeah.
and free
Public
parking.
roads,
yeah.
Okay.
Parking and-
Well, it would be good to know the usage as well, that how well they're used in Madison. I can see close to the campus probably more often. And, in different areas, we don't want to spend all of that money that's sitting there, in the rain,
There's a lot of,
snow, so.
the B-Cycle website in Madison has that information, and some of that was in the packet. About how it's
Okay.
used, who uses it,
Right.
et cetera. Some of that was in there, but they've got an annual report. I'm sure it could be found easily online.
Okay, so the
The motion
motion
is
is,
to recommend approval
to
of the
the-
B-cycle concept.
yeah. Okay, all those in favor of the approval of the concept, only the concept,
Recommending approval of the concept.
say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the concept is approved, now the second motion.
And that, well, I think the minutes will just reflect the concerns for additional information from staff.
Well, I think Leaf had made a,
No, that's, I think Eileen caught it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're going to have that, so we want to look at the,
Additional information needed,
yeah,
the type of systems.
what's happening in other cities, the usage and everything, so comprehensive data so that we know
And
what we
council,
are working
council will
with.
ask those questions anyway, so.
Oh, maybe, so. So, all right, so we are moving on to the next item, number 9. This is the operating and capital budget request by the
And,
planning
right, and
department.
Capital has recommended TIF projects, and the operating, we're proposing 2 major changes. One is, we just this year had approval for a half-time sustainability coordinator, and the idea would be to request increase to go to full-time for that sustainability coordinator. The other change is we're asking that, we gave up our city issued cell phones this year, and we're asking to transfer that savings to the training budget, so we can have a little bit more training that we actually pay for instead of all our free webinars. So those are the 2 big changes on the operating. So, yeah.
Well, I
Right.
looked at the wages, I see 21,000 more in there.
And that's for the sustainability coordinator.
That's
Additional.
sustainability coordinator, that's, so this 28K is sustainability coordinator, additional cost,
That's the additional cost, I believe, yeah. I don't have it in front of me.
28,000.
Mhm.
So, well, I told Mike about this, that not just for only sustainability coordinator, all the new positions which we have filled this year, I want to know that what they have done and how has it helped the taxpayers. So I can't really, unless I have that information, not only this, I'm not going to be comfortable with any of those positions which we approved even last year. I want to see all that information, how and what did we improve for the citizens here. So we were sort of sitting on the fence last year, even giving half the position, and I have not seen any details that what is this person going to be doing.
Okay.
And so I think unless, I see those details, I can't really even vote on it or approve it, so.
From
So
my
the-
perspective, looking at the training budget, I definitely support the increase and would urge you guys to consider it even more. I think part of the excellence of staff is should be rewarded with good training opportunities. I mean, any good organization should invest in training and ongoing professional certification for its members, and that's pretty cheap. I mean, the idea of sending staff to 1 or 2 conferences a year and making sure they maintain their AICP certification, like I have to do, like Jen
And
has
that's
to
what we
do,
do, yeah.
and those are expensive, and so.
And I agree with Kurt completely, and I think in any organizations, training is very important. You got to keep your
Double it.
knowledge base updated, so I have absolutely no problem with that at all, so.
I would urge you to consider bumping up to 8,000 or 9,000 a year.
Wow,
Well,
great.
I know what it costs to go. so
Yeah.
I know what it costs me to go to a conference for 4 days. And
Yeah,
This would not get you there.
yeah, no.
so how much we have for the
Huh?
training?
It's in one con.
4,100 is the proposal.
So where-
It's right here,
Oh,
4,100.
okay.
Yeah, we do a lot of our AICP
online.
free webinars.
Like I do, it's like you get that notice saying you have to certify, quick watch a bunch of webinars and.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
But there is a lot to be
Still
said for
the-
going to a
This kind of
conference.
support
the
too.
conference is developing the connections, meeting people, and, getting to know the networking, so. But you can, lot of that information, it's all available, so that's not the issue at all, so. So I looked at your, this capital improvement plan, so it does look good, so. I had
Do you
some,
want to put up the capital one?
Yep.
Thanks.
Have it up.
You gonna run?
so the Pleasant View Road is, number 1 is
I'll zoom in.
good, it's critical, number 2 is good, downtown
Plaza.
Plaza,
development.
no question about it, so, and northeast Middleton corridor, yes, and solar projects, they're good, but I'm not really sure that this is going to be all grants, right? A big part of it will be grants? Well, 136, I think.
Yeah.
Wait, which item are you looking
The
at?
solar.
Item number
Yeah.
5.
Item number which?
Item number 5 on the capital, so what do you
Oh.
think? Solar project on all 5 city buildings. So we have big solar project coming at the airport.
Yep.
And we got built so huge solar project on the,
Right.
at the municipal operations center. So I don't know, I think,
Well, our citizens voted 80% to go to 100% renewable, so this would be, I think that's a very good expenditure.
no, we are going to have 5 megawatt at the airport now, right?
I forget the specifics, but.
Yeah, 5
it's very
megawatt
big.
thing happening very soon, so.
But this would be on city buildings too.
And I don't have any problem with that, but wasn't part of the airport project that we were going to get power from that, and that was going to be able to power our city buildings, the airport project?
And I don't know how many, I'm sorry, I don't know the specifics. I don't remember, I apologize. I don't know if, Mark, if you remember that, but how much was left from the airport?
So if that's the case, does that show up somewhere else as a benefit in terms of payback to,
Well, it
city-
probably will, but not for a little while, 'cause it's
not for a couple of years? Some of the, I mean, there's a benefit cost to any of these items, so I guess the question I have right now is, are we to consider, the budget itself recommend to council, or do we need to think about some of those other components that are building the community in different ways and benefiting? You know, like the issue of training. I mean, it's a really good example where that will benefit the planning staff immensely. Something like the solar project, maybe there is some you know, the city buildings are not using all of the energy they had in the past because they have the solar panels, so there is a benefit there that we're considering as approving or recommending this to council, or is that the idea that we recommend as is to council and they're approving?
You don't have to recommend as is, you can make
Okay.
changes if you'd like, or we can get you more information. I don't think, Abby did a memo for this one. I don't think she,
Okay.
You want me to?
the staff, I don't have a
Certainly
packet, so-
benefit to any of these items
Yeah.
that is
Well, I looked
beyond
at
just a
the
cost.
details. She did provide the details for each of the items, so,
Okay,
yeah, there is.
so Mark, you wanna put that up on the screen, the details of that item? Thanks.
I know you've explained this to me last year, but I'm kind of thick in the head. Why are some road improvements in the planning capital budget, but most of them are in public works?
If they're TIF, then they would, then.
Oh, okay, if
then
they're
we'd
TIF, then they
present
come,
them,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
because we're, making that recommendation.
And so a lot of these are being, the road improvements are being funded through
That
tax
would be our
increments.
recommendation, like
Yeah.
Pleasant View Road is one.
Pleasant View, yeah,
In the
That's-
past, we've done Airport Road,
right.
Parmenter, Terrace Avenue, so quite a few of them.
Which one did you want me to look up?
The solar. Thanks.
5 buildings, or were we talking about just the airport?
No, this one, the cost estimate for receiving cost.
So the Madison Solar is going to pay up to 23% of it.
10 to
so-
20%, yeah. I can see.
Well, the focus on energy,
23%, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
would fund capital costs.
so it will be not on the city hall, library, senior center. We already have the police building, so which are the 5 buildings then? We already got at the municipal operations center, we will have that airport.
Your center is one.
Yeah, senior center and the library, so what are the other 3?
Why that's cut off here?
Up, maybe the depot, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either, I apologize. I did not.
If all, this is all
We don't want to put on the city hall
I'll
because
think-
it's, at least I was told.
Okay.
that would jump us up.
Well, so, as I see in the narrative, and just roughly doing the financing in my head, the city savings for solar would, the payback period would be 9 to 13 years, which, that's one of those things, as Jen was saying, that we just look at the cost, but there's a lot of benefits to these projects as well.
Yeah, well,
And solar is
that's,
one of those things where you can calculate the payback period straight line.
That's a nice payback.
It helps us with the 100% renewable
Yep.
goal too.
well, I'm for it, I mean, but, the question is, do you want to have it one place or, it's better to have in separate buildings, so.
Well, this isn't taking
what-
the place of the airport one though, and Abby's been very involved in that, so the additional ones, I'm sure we don't get enough benefit to provide for those other buildings, so.
So,
So you're looking to put it on City Hall? Not City
no,
Hall?
no, this,
I'm
the
not
North
sure
City, I
because of
think
the-
it was because this building is old, and there was a,
And
That-
I'm not sure that we wanna spend the
Well,
money to
that's
put it
not
on City
right,
Hall now, when
Cause it
we're
may not be
talking
here in
about
9 years.
not having City Hall. Why would we do
We
that?
can move the panels, but that's expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, then you stretch your payback time out.
well, you will find
you're
out what
putting
are
it
the
down
other
City Hall.
3 buildings, I can see 2. And the other would be that, would it be better to make that 6 megawatts there or 5.5 megawatt rather than at the airport, rather than our putting in,
I think they've maximized the capacity at the airport.
Yes.
They have
I
a
think
limited
they-
area.
yes, They've
and-
gone as big as they can.
Yeah, I don't think they can do it bigger.
okay?
I would move that we make a recommendation to the Finance Committee to support the Planning Department capital and operating budget for 2019.
I'm gonna second that, but I am wondering if we can't change some of those
Or do you wanna-
numbers in training and that type of thing.
Yeah, so let me amend my motion to recommend to the Finance Committee to consider increasing the staff training budget to 6,000? I'm thinking 2,000 per staff member.
There we go.
Yeah, just get them.
That'll get one or two of you to the APA conference.
Yeah.
So are you recommending the position for the sustainability coordinator full-time?
Yes, that's included.
I'm seconding it.
And does it also mean that the bike share program we just discussed, I noticed that was a budget item. Are we approving that?
Yeah, that was in there.
That's a good point.
I
Because we're
guess I
not
know
certain
that-
about that yet.
Kind of fast tracking, isn't it?
So what we could do is we could keep the motion as is and just recommend that the budget appointed by, or recommended by staff. We could attach a rider saying, we're uncertain about that one. We could just strike it from the recommended budget. I mean, ultimately,
I
we're
think we
just
wanna keep
recommending
it-
and finance
So
committee's
keep it
gonna
out for
choose.
now.
I have a
Budget.
suggestion.
I think we wanna keep
Eileen?
it there as a placeholder, but we don't
Yeah.
know the exact dollar.
Right.
We don't have the
amount.
exact
It
dollar
is a
amount we want.
budget, so.
Yeah.
I think the concept is,
I have so the budget, staff had to submit the capital budget a week and a half ago
Right.
as a staff proposal. But we didn't have a timeline this year to allow us to go to committees. Very few committees were able to look at their proposals. So either way, this is going to be a retroactive staff, commission committees approving what was submitted. I don't see why that couldn't be done at the next meeting as well. Providing input to the council finance committee, which doesn't start their work until
Actually, in October.
those numbers,
Well,
they're gonna
mid-September.
change.
This is gonna be a TIF budget request anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
Right, do you ever amend the budget,
it's not
this
as-
budget, and bring it back?
yes.
Any other, okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. So these are
Then I
just
think there's-
initial numbers that we put together. Our operating budget is due Friday. So obviously
Actually,
any,
it's due tomorrow, I think, the
I
15th.
thought they were due Friday.
I
Oh,
thought it was the 15th.
okay.
I think it's already been submitted anyway, but.
Well, I have an airport, I have an airport budget to still turn in, so.
Yeah, I thought it was the 15th.
Anyway, the point is sure, I mean, the budget is an iterative process. This is the first step. There's projects, placeholders, staff recommendations, and then commissions and committees advise the finance committee and council.
Well, once the plan commission approves it, it's not coming back here. It's going to the finance committee and then further on to
That's
council.
what I was just saying. It's a
Yeah.
process that
The
goes, so
recommendation-
iterative maybe isn't the right
Right.
word, but,
Of, yeah.
Those specific items, maybe in concept, stay the same or similar, but the budget numbers may be different.
Mhm.
What's the difference between very important and important?
4 letters.
Well, it's,
And
It is
critical.
tough to-
it's sort
yeah,
of a
critical.
rank from the top to the bottom sort of way. So that means the top 2 will get approved very likely, and the others would depend that how much money is there, so.
I guess I'm looking at South Pond improvements, which has gone from year to year
It
to
has,
year to
yeah.
year,
Or it's above the-
and is only important.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing
I
is that
know.
they did some work and they found out that it is really not needed right now. So
I'm
they
not sure
have
I'd
gone
say it's
through the
not
process,
needed,
huh?
though. I don't
Oh,
think I'd say it's
okay,
not
so there was
needed.
some-
Yeah, there's,
Something which they did,
yeah.
they found out they don't need dredging. So-
Yeah, I think it's the dredging issue is what's delayed it, is if there has to
But
be.
it's the
dredging.
rebuilding of the boardwalk.
Well, this is different from that. This is actually landscaping around the pond. It might be a little bit of trail improvement, but it's more just aesthetic, because we,
Because The boardwalk improvements would be Parks, Recreation, Forestry,
Right. we're just having,
Farm budget.
Public lands.
Public Lands budget.
multi-million-dollar development around there, and we've got some things, there are some things that are changing at some of the businesses out there, some of the ones we might wanna screen, so it's probably better to wait a little bit, but I still view it as important, cause I think it's kind of a unfinished piece of business that we have.
Just so I can be educated, I get the priority line or column, severity column, what is that? What is that?
It's, again, it's a subjective thing, how, like, what's, you know, how important is this in terms of other funding sources, other,
Okay.
safety projects, like Pleasant View Road expansion, we've been talking about that for years and years and years. We gotta keep that, it's critical that we get the design done,
Yep.
so we can keep in line for the federal funding.
Yes.
Yep,
Coordinate
yep,
with
yep.
Madison, so.
Got it.
And
Okay.
then, of course.
I
safety.
just saw some very important,
I know.
low
Well,
importance.
because
and
if
I'm
it's,
It's all
Okay.
subjective.
if you need to get
and,
outside funding, that bumps things up on
It
the
does.
priority
like,
list,
yeah,
'cause-
there's,
And
because
coordinate
there's a
with other-
certain
With other
way that they've
levels of
gotta come.
government too.
Okay.
I'd put them all
Cool.
critical, but they wouldn't let me.
everything's priority one and highest priority.
But Lee,
It's easy for me. I
for
have to find it.
example, you know, if you take the Pleasant View Road expansion, we can only do it as long as we can use the TIF money.
Right.
Otherwise,
Right, that's a good
where
point.
is going to get $7-8 million? So,
And we're coordinating with Madison, and we have to get federal funding too, so.
and the second is the University Avenue, the Cuyahoga Street, we are doing it next year period, so it doesn't matter
Coordinating with
what.
the county.
Right,
Mhm.
right,
So
right,
we
right,
have
right.
spent so much money
Okay.
into it, so,
Very good.
Yeah.
This is-
and the
this is
downtown
kinda looking at
plaza,
'em, kinda-
yeah, the downtown plaza is the same way, it has to be.
Mhm.
And I can tell the Dan would like that North Middleton Trail connector, he's a little bit busy with right now, that should be done, so.
And the community campus plan, that was what was previously called the civic campus plan, so that's.
I guess one question, do you ever get, does this committee see the items that have been completed? I know the mayor mentioned that earlier about, you know, sort of looking at those things that may have been completed. So I'm does this group ever see, I mean, a list that, you know, we finally finished certain thing?
Oh,
Do we see cost savings, or does the planning staff, if there are savings, does it come back to planning, or does it go somewhere else in the city?
I think we should have the update sometime, so for me, you know, Eileen is working on this comp plan and the build plan, I would like to see those done. I mean, those are really high priority. So the other things are important, but those are, you know, we need a comp plan. so-
And we're talking about that next week, or 2 weeks from now.
Okay, okay, so
What's
those
on
are,
the agenda?
What is the success rate
Success rate,
of getting, whatever it is, 12, 15 items approved?
well, it's easier if there are some TIF funds involved, that's easier. And these are all pretty much taken from the TIF plan or previous priorities as established by either the Plan Commission or council. So, most of them are, not all of them. B-Cycle was not one.
I guess I'm looking at the campus plan, you know, that's third rank, that's only important. And, you know, I don't see how we can keep going without having a campus
Right,
plan.
we do need it. Mhm. Right, and
so,
we are
so
proposing.
you
TIF
can make a
fees.
motion to, oh, sorry, I
No,
didn't
that's
mean.
okay.
If you want to make a motion to move it up, or, you know, just ask them to move it up, where would you want it? And you can also change the rating. I mean, we can do that here. So where would you want it, in the priority? So, I mean, that's why we are here.
Well, I'd certainly get it to very important if we've got a choice of 3.
Okay, so let's put it, over there. So, do you guys agree?
Yes, I'll accept that as a friendly amendment to my motion, to change it, change the, community campus plan to very important.
Okay, so any other things? Dan, is there anything, are you happy with the priorities or you want to change something? This is the opportunity, if you want to change something, we should do it now, so.
I do want to mention that some of these numbers are, well, specifically Middleton Trail is, Middleton Northeast Trail Connector is, some of the numbers are extraordinarily conservative. The consultant gave me that number last week, and I asked them to explain that number. And it was a back of the napkin estimate based on projects they've done elsewhere, but making some very conservative assumptions. So I fully expect that number to come in hopefully quite a bit less than that. You know, it was breathtaking in terms of how much that number is.
Well, it is
So,
important that it
it's-
should be marked realistic, because we have gone through this before. We returned
understand.
one grant, and we don't want that to happen again.
I understand, and I totally support that, and this company has, I think, done a good job of saying, you know, when they gave us their design engineering scope of services, it was 299,000, and it ended up being 257. So I appreciate the conservative approach to initial estimates, and then, so it's better to do that, absolutely.
That's true.
Absolutely, but I
Right.
just wanted to say, I will be extraordinarily disappointed, and I think all of us will be if that ends up being that expensive.
If you consistently underestimate how much things cost, then you move to work for the federal government.
Well, one of the problem which I have in Northeast Trail is that the bidding, their schedule is bidding in April. And I don't know if that could be moved, you know, a little bit earlier. You look at their schedule.
I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, so why is it in April?
There's a lot of intricate design work that has to be done between now and then. They're actively working on it. I've given them all the data that we have that they need from our end. I mean, and I'm going to speak with Alder Ramsey about this after the meeting, but they are planning to do survey work in a week or two, and I would like to make sure we communicate to the residents before that. So,
Okay.
So they're actively started and immersed in the project.
Yeah, if we want to get the best value for our money, you know,
Yep.
bidding should be in January, February, so. Okay, so there's a one amendment, anything else? And my reservation is about, unless I have the information about that added position, I don't have any problem with anything else. so.
Which one was it?
Oh, the sustainability coordinator.
Okay, so you're not, so you don't,
Or for that matter, any position, because I think this will have to go through the personal committee and then all of those.
do you want me
things,
just to note that in the minutes?
Yeah, I
Okay.
would, you know, I like to get the details that what the new half position will be doing, and I don't have any details now, so I can't vote on it, so.
So, but if you vote to recommend this, you would be, but you're saying. you
But it
wanna
will be
take that-
without it, so.
Okay.
Yes.
That would, I'm not sure if that would be affected by the.
Well,
Gonna be
since it will
supported
be in
by
the minutes.
It's not gonna be supported by the motion.
It's not gonna be supported by the motion, that's good, it's not, unless you guys change the motion. But I can note that you need the details before you would support it.
Well, and this is, again, this is, what we are doing is we're recommending to finance and council.
Right.
I'll be honest with you, a bunch of this stuff can change.
Oh, yeah,
You've
yeah,
all been through the system, you know that.
yep.
Just because it's being recommended from this spot doesn't mean it's gonna stay this way.
Want like a benefits cost.
Well, I mean, what is that half person going to
What
be
was
doing? So,
achieved.
yeah, what have they achieved now, and what is,
Where are you doing?
when you have the full-time position, what they're going to be doing, so.
I just don't know how to treat that in terms of the overall vote, because right now it's in there, so I can note that that's how you feel
Well,
about it,
if you
but
put in the minutes, I guess, that probably is okay, so. Okay, so are we ready to vote, or?
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So
So
I
six.
expressed my
Okay, yeah, s-
reservation.
with reservation and all
Yes.
of that, I'll note that. Okay.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we are adjourned.